There are mistakes in the world of power that are not written in law books, that don't appear in any constitution, and certainly aren't mentioned in the polished speeches about morality or justice. They don't make noise, they don't require swords, they only need tolerance. And the moment you let a wrong action slide, when you turn a blind eye to a tiny fracture in trust in that very moment, you're writing your own downfall. This isn't a lesson for dreamers. This is not a tale for those who want to live comfortably. This is the raw truth about what destroys empires, what crumbles companies, and what corrupts the soul of any leader who fails to protect what he holds. Because power doesn't just fall. It is eroded bit by betrayal, by greed, by those who smile under the lights, but dig graves in the shadows. And if you don't see it, if you don't confront it, you will be devoured not by the enemies out there, but by the people standing right beside you. Today we will expose the 7 behaviors that must never be tolerated. The 7 silent poisons that lead to collapse of your throne, your reputation, or your trust. If you're someone who leads, someone others follow, or someone building a life that can't be easily destroyed, stay until the very end. And if what I'm about to say touches a truth you've been denying, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with the men who need to wake up. Because sometimes your survival doesn't depend on how strong you are, but on how clearly you see what must never be forgiven. People often say that loyalty can only be measured over time, but Machiavelli went further. He didn't measure loyalty in months or years. He measured it through crisis. Because when the sky is clear, anyone can make grand promises. When money is flowing, everyone can pretend to be honorable. But when the ship begins to shake, when the storm rolls in, when blood starts to spill and flames begin to spread, that's when you'll know who truly stands with you and who only stood for the victory. You've seen them. The ones who show up at your celebrations, drink with you, laugh with you, clap your back as if they die for you. And then you fail. Your power falters. They vanish as if they never existed. No message, no gesture, just absence. And a chilling silence that speaks louder than any word. Even worse is when you survive. When you rise from the ashes and they come back with apologies wrapped in reasons. I didn't know what to do. I had things to handle. I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure. Don't believe them because nothing is louder than silence when you needed them most. Someone who can abandon you once will do it again and again if you let them. If you forgive a betrayal out of weakness, you're sending a silent message to your entire system. There are no consequences for betrayal. And from that moment on, loyalty around you is no longer genuine. It's conditional, based solely on your power. You'll be surrounded by those who don't admire you, but calculate whether you're still worth following. And at that point, you are no longer the leader. You're just another figure being weighed and judged in a storm. You don't need an army. You need one person who will stand beside you when everything is collapsing. That one person is worth more than 100 who vanish when the winds rise. Machiavelli emphasized betrayal is not just personal. It is a fracture in the foundation of power. Because when your subordinates see that you can be abandoned, they will believe that you are no longer untouchable. And from that moment on, your power is no longer a certainty. It becomes a role waiting for someone else to claim. Remember this, no one stays loyal to a leader left in isolation. And the one who disappears when you need them most will be the first to stab you in the back when you're at your weakest. They'll wear your colors, sit at your table, nod in your presence, but vanish when their strength was needed the most. You might think they probably had a good reason, but Machiavelli would look you in the eye and say absence is a statement. It doesn't need words. It is a choice. And that choice is never accidental. So when you call and no one answers, when you fall and no one answers, when you fall and no one reaches out, don't seek reasons. Remember faces. And if you survive the storm, never let those faces return to their old positions. Because every time you forgive someone like that, you're writing a new rule for everyone else. You don't have to be loyal. Just return at the right time. That's not how you build an empire. That's how you rot it from the empire. That's how you rot it from the inside out. There is nothing more dangerous than a coward sitting on a throne. You might think that ruthless enemies are the greatest threat. You might believe it's secret conspiracies or betrayals in the shadows that destroy empires. But no, Machiavelli made it clear the fastest way to dismantle a kingdom is to place a leader in charge who fears his own power. Cowardice doesn't always show itself through trembling hands. It's not just downcast eyes or hesitant steps. It often hides behind fake morality. Camouflage is careful deliberation wrapped in the excuse of needing more time to discuss. But in reality, it's the avoidance of responsibility. It's hesitation when the moment calls for action. It's the quiet fear that one wrong decision could cost everything. A leader like that doesn't just destroy his own credibility. He spreads doubt through every level beneath him. When the man at the top refuses to command. When his eyes constantly search for others to make the call. When even the smallest decisions need unanimous agreement. Those who follow will stop believing in his leadership. And when trust collapses, you don't need enemies. The kingdom will tear itself apart. Imagine you're a general on the battlefield. The enemy is closing in. You look up at your commander and you see him hesitating, second-guessing, stalling, while every second that passes could cost lives. Would you still believe in him, or would you start thinking about your own exit plan? That's how fear spreads like a sickness. It seeps from the top down and it shatters order. Machiavelli understood this. Every second of hesitation in a leader is a knife to the heart of the system. An army doesn't fear its enemies. It fears a commander who doesn't know what to do. Leadership is not about waiting for certainty. It's the art of acting in the midst of doubt. No one can guarantee the right decision, but strength means taking the risk when it matters. And in that very moment, when every eye is watching, when silence hangs heavy in the air, the true leader steps forward and says, "Move forward." Not because he's fearless, but because he knows if he shows fear, everything falls apart. Some people fake morality to hide their fear of action. They speak of peace, of moderation, of ethics, but look closer. They're not afraid of doing the wrong thing. They're afraid of doing the right thing because it's hard. They don't sit back to think. They sit back to run from responsibility. A true leader doesn't hide behind councils. Doesn't bury himself in endless meetings. Doesn't wait for someone else to decide for him. There's a certain type of person who never disagrees with you. They always nod, always praise, always say, "You're right." And strangely enough, they are the sweetest danger in the halls of power. Machiavelli wasn't afraid of the enemy in front of him. He feared the one standing behind him. The one who kept telling him how great he was because enemies keep you alert. But flatterers lull you into illusion. Flattery is a form of poison. It doesn't kill instantly. It slowly erodes your judgment, destroys your inner strength, and turns a leader into a puppet of his own inflated ego. Flatterers aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to the opportunity of being near power. They don't tell you what you need to hear. They tell you what you want to hear. And once you start enjoying it, you lose the truth. You think you're being supported, but really you're surrounded by mirrors, reflections of yourself, where every opposing voice is drowned out by fake applause. A true leader doesn't need sweet words. He needs warnings. He needs people who have the courage to say you're wrong. True loyalty can be uncomfortable. It dares to challenge. It dares to push back. It says the things you don't want to hear because it cares about your survival. But flattery is a subtle form of manipulation. It doesn't stab you. It disorients you. It strips away your standards. It makes you lose the ability to assess yourself. When a leader becomes addicted to praise, he becomes blind to the dangers closing in because no one dares to warn him. No one dares to confront him. No one wants to ruin the praise party. And then when the shock hits, when power collapses, those who once praised you will be the first to turn away because they were never loyal to you. They were loyal to the strength you once had. And when that strength disappears, they will switch sides with the same flattery, the same face, the same voice. Machiavelli warned, never confuse a flatterer with a loyal ally. A loyal person might make you uncomfortable, but they will never let you self-destruct. A flatterer, once you fall from your throne, will vanish, or worse, will lead your execution, all while wearing the same soft smile. So take a good look around you, who always agrees with everything you say, who has never said no to you, who always knows the perfect moment to compliment you. That's not an ally. That's a parasite feeding off your pride. If you want to hold on to power, you must be strong enough to hear the truth and sharp enough to recognize the one who's lying to you in the sweetest way. A compliment at the wrong time can be far more dangerous than a timely objection. Power doesn't just come from weapons, laws, or titles. It exists in the belief that the person in charge is untouchable. A fragile belief, but one that holds entire empires together. And then all it takes is one mocking laugh in public. One joke made about your orders in front of a crowd. One man bold enough to challenge you. Not behind closed doors, but under the spotlight. In that moment, your power is cut for the first time. Machiavelli understood this well. A public challenge doesn't have to overthrow you. It just has to plant a seed in other people's minds if he can speak out. Why can't he? A single doubtful glance, a whisper, a rumor, and suddenly the crowd starts to smell blood. No one attacks you with weapons. They attack with questions. They don't need to lead a rebellion. They just need others to start thinking that you can be replaced. And once people stop believing you're untouchable, they begin testing your limits. They ignore your orders. They criticize you bit by bit. They push boundaries just to see you bit by bit. They push boundaries just to see what you'll do. And if you do nothing, if you laugh it off, if you let it slide to preserve your image, if you show tolerance in front of the crowd, you've just lost the most sacred element of power, fear. Power doesn't require senseless cruelty, but it demands that no public defiance goes unpunished, because the cost isn't just an insult. It's the look in the eyes of those around you. It's the mind silently asking, is he really in control? A public challenge left unanswered doesn't just cost you respect. It gives every other rebel permission to follow suit. And just like that, you're no longer leading. You're on a stage where every word you say is being weighed, where others begin to play the role of critic to steal the spotlight. And you, the one who once directed the play, are now just another supporting actor in your own power game. Some will disguise themselves in morality, saying they only want to improve the kingdom, that they're not against you. They're just speaking the truth. Don't be fooled. Anyone who publicly places their virtue above your authority is quietly claiming they deserve to rule instead of you. Don't be distracted by eloquent words. Don't be deceived by the crowd's silence. Because if you allow it, if you don't act, you've handed your challenger the most powerful weapon, precedent. And once a precedent is set, it becomes a path for every other opportunist waiting in the wings. A protest left unpunished is a public license for the next one. You don't need to crush every disagreement. You don't need to crush every disagreement. You don't need to punish private opinions, but any public defiance must be addressed. Not out of ego, but because every eye is on you. They're not listening to your words. They're watching how you react when challenged. And from that, they decide whether you're the true leader or just a man desperately clinging to a throne that's already slipping. If this message speaks to a truth you felt but never voiced, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to follow the next part.